Possessed Whiskers. In the quiet town of Eldridge Hollow, where towering pines whispered ancient secrets, there was a small animal shelter known as Precious Paws. It was a cozy place at first glance, painted in soothing pastels and surrounded by manicured hedges. But there was a chill in the air on some nights, a lingering feeling that something was off. Maya, a 17-year-old who volunteered at the shelter, loved being surrounded by animals. While the other kids were busy with their smartphones and social media, she found solace in the company of the stray dogs and cats. But lately, the place had been feeling strange. It started with Whiskers, a scruffy black and white cat that had been rescued from a dumpster. Whiskers always had an unusual glint in his green eyes, but no one paid much attention until the first incident. One late afternoon, as Maya prepared food for the animals, she heard a rattling in the storage room. It sounded like glass scraping against wood. Curiosity piqued, she crept toward the door. As she opened it, the room lay in disarray. Food containers were tipped over, and the floor was littered with splintered wooden toys. Whiskers sat in the center, his fur bristling, back arched, staring intently at something unseen. When he noticed Maya, his eyes shifted, and for a brief moment, she thought she saw something dark flash within them. "Whiskers, what are you doing?" she asked, kneeling to calm him. But the cat let out a low hiss, his eyes narrowing, as if challenging her presence. Maya backed away, a shiver running down her spine. Days turned into a week, and bizarre things began happening. Animals were acting strangely. Dogs would growl at nothing, and birds in their cages would flap violently as if trying to escape a phantom. Each night, Maya noticed Whiskers prowling the shadows, lurking around the other pets as if he were protecting something, or perhaps, something else was protecting him. That Friday evening, the shelter held a small adoption event. Families filled the place, laughter echoing off the walls. Yet, the joy seemed muted compared to the unease that gripped Maya. She glanced around and noticed Whiskers slinking through the crowd, his eyes fixed on a little girl named Lily, no older than 8. Lily seemed drawn to Whiskers, her laughter bubbling up as the cat rubbed against her feet. Maya approached. "Be careful, sweetie. He can be a bit moody." But as soon as those words left her lips, Whiskers' demeanor turned malevolent. He arched his back and growled, an unsettling sound that turned heads. The atmosphere shifted, laughter fading into whispered concern. "What's wrong with him?" a man asked. "I don't know," Maya replied, feeling a knot in her stomach. "He was fine before." That night, as Maya closed up the shelter, she could hear the soft pad of Whiskers' paws. Glancing around, she felt an icy draft, despite the summer warmth outside. The further she walked, the more she sensed the weight of countless eyes upon her. Suddenly, Whiskers appeared again, blocking her way. He stared up at her, now exhibiting an expression that was a mix of hunger and something far more sinister. "Get away from me," she shouted, but instead felt rooted to the spot, terror strapping her limbs. With a swift flick of his tail, Whiskers bolted down the hall, disappearing into darkness. Something compelled Maya to follow. The further she ventured, the more the air reeked of dampness and decay. She found herself in the basement, a place rarely visited. The flickering bulb overhead revealed walls covered in shadowy scribbles, animal shapes, and strange symbols. As she descended, a guttural growl echoed around her, causing her heart to race. Whiskers appeared once more, this time flanked by the other animals, eyes glowing, their fur wild and raised. They walked in a slow but deliberate manner, surrounding her as if in a trance. "Whiskers, no," she yelled. "What are you doing?" And then it happened. A shift in reality. Maya felt invisible strings pulling at her mind, whispers wrapping around her thoughts, promising the freedom of the shadows, the thrill of slipping into another skin. She stumbled back, shaking her head, trying to block the enticing voices urging her to join. "Stay away from me," she screamed, invoking everything within her to resist. Just then, the light above flickered violently, and in that moment of chaos, the control over the animals faltered. They broke their eerie formation, howling and yowling as if in overthrow. Maya seized the opportunity, sprinting back up the stairs. She threw herself through the door just as it slammed shut behind her, the cries of the animals echoing like banshees in the night. The following day, Maya returned to the shelter only to find the place empty, devoid of life. No barking, no meowing, just an unsettling silence. Whiskers was missing, and none of the other animals could be found. The townspeople whispered about an old legend, the spirit of a tormented soul that found its way into animals, demanding vengeance against humans who wronged it. Days turned into weeks, and the shelter closed down. But while Eldridge Hollow moved on, every now and then, people would catch glimpses of a shadowy figure. A scruffy cat with piercing green eyes darting through the streets, lurking on the fringes just out of reach, waiting for someone to join him in his endless night.